Just invite add to the set. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I am Cult Cinema 83. This is episode 15 of the Cult Cinema podcast, and today I'm joined by fellow horror and film fan Sammi. Sammi, long time no see. Can you hear me? Okay?
It's been a very long time.
Yeah, very long time. I know, right? Can you hear me? Okay? Can you see me? Okay?
I can. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So, Sammi, how are you today? And is this your first podcast stream for the first time? Is this your first time doing this?
It is, yeah. Yeah, I'm very excited. I've been really excited to do this podcast with you.
Okay, there you go. I'm excited too, and don't worry, it's going to be a lot of fun, I'm sure. So, yeah, episode 15 of the Cult Cinema podcast, and we decided today that it would be fun to celebrate George Romero, a filmmaker that we are both a big fan of, I believe. And what better way to celebrate Romero than, by talking about probably his best work, maybe? We are talking about and discussing his Living Dead trilogy. That's the trilogy, not like Land of the Dead and whatever comes after that, just the trilogy there. So yeah, but before we do all that, Sammi, can you tell to the audience, like, what was your first experience with George Romero, and what was the first movie that you saw of his catalog?
Ooh, I've said this to you before, but it was the Dawn of the Dead remake, which I know you're not super keen on, but I love the remake personally. Okay. And that was my first introduction to Romero. And then I went into his back catalogue, so the older stuff and the OGs. And it kind of got me into the zombies are my favourite, so George Romero kind of solidified it.
Right, yeah. No, I mean, zombies are I love the whole zombie genre. I feel like it's a bit oversaturated today in today's movie and TV sphere, so to speak. But I definitely love the genre. The remake is directed by Zack Snyder, I believe, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah, it was. Well, I will get back to the remake in later on in the stream, in the podcast. So, but okay, that's interesting. I think for me it was the first time I watched something. I think I was in high school, and we still had video stores. I mean, a lot of people probably don't even know what that word is right now, but it is it is what it is. And I saw this video cassette, and it said Martin on it. Martin, do you know that film, Martin, from George Romero?
No.
Okay, well, anyway, it's basically about Martin is basically about a serial killer who thinks he's a vampire. That's what the film is about, and it's a very disturbing movie that has a very brutal ending. And that's actually the first movie that I watched, and I was like, I was disturbed, but I could immediately see the craft of the filmmaking. I mean, George Romero has just such a unique point of view when it comes to his films and stuff, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, Martin, that was, if you can find it, you should watch it. It's really good, actually. So, And it was George Romero's first cooperation with Tom Savini as well. So there you go.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, you should look that up. It's really good. So yeah, so I guess it's time. Shall we just go into the movies then?
Let's go for it.
Okay, there we go. So I figured we would do this in chronological order. I mean, that would be fair, I think that would be fair. So if you're ready, we can start with the first one. So the first one, of course, Night of the Living Dead, released in 1968. I always read a quick synopsis here for the people who haven't seen it. A ragtag of Pennsylvanians barricade themselves in an old farmhouse to remain safe from a horde of flesh-eating ghouls that are ravaging the countryside. Very funny, like they don't mention zombies at all in the first one yet. That's a very interesting choice, but we'll get to that. So yeah, that's kind of like the synopsis of that. So before we go into like what I talked to you about, before we go into positives, negatives, and all of that stuff, what are some of your general thoughts about Night of the Living Dead?
For me, the original Night of the Living Dead is a classic. It's fantastic. I think it kind of brought the genre from what it was with films like White Zombie and the really old films into something that was like, wow, this has not been done before. The makeup was, I mean, it's not aged well, admittedly, but the makeup at the time was like, wow, like this is top notch. This is amazing. You also had the main character being a black guy, which at the time was huge.
Yeah,
absolutely massive. And I don't know, it's just I've got this like romance of that film. It's just amazing.
Yeah, no, it really is. I agree, it really is, and it's yeah. I mean, it's before Night of the Living Dead came along. I mean, usually the zombie films were more about voodoo and stuff like that. You know, White Zombie or I Walked with a Zombie, of course. Movies like that, very often dealing with, you know, black magic and voodoo and just resurrecting the dead and all of that sort of stuff, which I guess they kind of brought back when, you know, the Italian European cinema started to make zombie films, I guess in a sort of way, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, I think this was really a trendsetter, like you said. I mean, I don't think anyone had seen this before in such a way, and it just yeah, it's I think it really changed the genre, like you said. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, for what it was. You know, especially given the history, because let's give a little bit of a background here. I mean, of course, when George Romero, he studied in Pittsburgh, went to the Film Academy there. And after that, he created his own company, which I'm all for. You know, create your own stuff. That's always my mantra. The company was called the Latent Image, I believe it was, which he co-founded with his friend Russell Streiner, I believe, who plays Johnny in the film, actually, which is very interesting.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. It's actually Johnny is his best friend from the Film Academy. So, and eventually his company kind of like crowdfunded his first movie, because this was George Romero's first kind of main feature, really. And crowdfunded, I mean, crowdfunding didn't exist back then yet, but it's like, you know, each member of the company chipped in their money from their paychecks and stuff. Which, I mean, that just really proves how much faith they had in George Romero, even if he didn't really make anything yet. I mean, besides commercials and stuff. I mean, do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it is. So and so basically that's how the idea got started. And I think they made this movie for back then. It right now it's like $1 million, but I believe it was like for $200,000 or something, which is like most filmmakers would laugh at that right now. It's like if you look at like all these movies that are coming out today have like $160 million budget and stuff. It's really insane. So
Yeah.
I mean, very interesting history there. So I guess let's just dive into the movie itself. I mean, I always want to start with the positives, so I'm handing it over to you. We're talking about positives now. What are some of the things that you really love about Night of the Living Dead?
I can't. There's not. I don't know. I can't think of the top of my head. I just think, like I said, it's a classic film. It's the first of its kind in a way. And I don't know. There's a lot to like. There's a lot to love. From that first film. Like I said, the makeup, as bad as it's aged now, the makeup is amazing.
But has it aged though? I mean, I would take this kind of practical effects over any CGI that is done today.
Oh, it's better than CGI, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
But I think the like we're doing positives. We'll do negatives after. The characterization's great, definitely. You kind of care about the characters, especially the main characters. Yeah, there's a lot that I could say, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, let me fill in for that for you, because I mean, you talk about the characters and stuff. I think the acting is superb in this film. The acting
definitely
is like top notch, I think. Especially like Duane Jones, who plays Ben, of course, as very level-headed, smart, capable character. He immediately takes like leadership of the situation, even though he doesn't really know what's going on as well. I mean, he has the resilience to at least take the reins and guide these people through the situation and stuff. And like you said, it was just very controversial back then to have like a really to have like a person of color in the main lead. I mean, that wasn't really done back then. I mean, as a matter of fact, it was very frowned upon. And I think George Romero took a very big risk with that. But I think it paid off very well.
I agree.
I mean, you can argue about the ending of it, because I'm sure we'll get to the ending, but yeah, really great. And I also love, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, people call Barbara dumb and silly and all of that stuff, and just like a scream girl and stuff. But Judith is kind of like Judith O'Day, who plays Barbara. She is kind of like the proxy for the audience. She is us in a matter of way, where it's like, she is just suffering from PTSD, basically. She can't grasp the situation, and she just is so scared out of her mind about what is happening around her, that she is just locking herself off from everyone and everything. Which I think is a very realistic approach to the character. I mean, do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, she is. I mean, also with like, do you agree as well that she is kind of like the sort of like the talking point for the audience as well? I mean, that's what the audience is basically her. That's how we experience this.
Yeah, kind of like that added realism.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. So I think it's great, and the rest of the cast is great as well. But I also love how small this movie feels, because it's not yet the globe trotting, epic apocalypse that we later see in Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. This almost feels like an art house movie, which I kind of guess it is in a certain way, but it feels just very small and compact. I mean, there is not really like a lot of, communication with like other states or whatever. The only bit of information you get is through a radio and a TV screen. But I think that really helps the film as well. How do you feel about the scope of the film in terms of comparing it to Dawn and Day?
I think with it being the beginning, it is the beginning. So you've got the zombies are just starting out, aren't they? So yeah, it does feel small because it's just starting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly, yeah. Well, it basically starts with with one zombie. It's like the guy in the cemetery, which is like that's my favorite zombie of the entire film. I love that. That zombie. That's fantastic. But it's like, and it so comes out of nowhere. The whole situation. It's like, because when John and Barbara, when they are paying respects to their mother and stuff, and you see it walking in the distance, it's like, oh, that's just the coroner or whatever, or the, how do you call that, the administrator or whatever, just taking a stroll, and then it completely flips, and it's like it turns into complete insanity, which is it's really interesting. But yeah, the format of this film works very well, I think, because I think you want to start small and then build it up to bigger things, which I think, I mean, as much as I love The Walking Dead, that I think that has always been its biggest flaw. Like, they wanted to introduce all of these communities like from the get-go, where I felt like it would have been better if they had just focused on a handful of people and then gradually, explore and find more stuff and all of that. I don't know how much of a fan of The Walking Dead you are, but
I've watched quite a lot of it. I think I pretty much stopped after we met Negan.
Oh, right,
for the Walking Dead, which is odd because I love his character, but I don't know, it just got a bit too much drama for me and not enough zombies.
I know. That's the complaint that most people have, and I managed to stick with it, and it got better after that. You have to get through like a bit of a dip there, a bit of a tumble, but it does get better. But a lot of people had fallen off after season 7. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, but I mean, you can clearly tell Robert Kirkman how much he was influenced by George Romero's movies, because there are many references in The Walking Dead, actually. So yeah, so how do you feel about this? I mean, even though this movie is not very graphic or explicit in gore yet, I mean, at least I feel that way. But there are a lot of really creepy moments in this movie. I mean, this almost feels more like a haunted house movie, or like a home invasion film. I mean, but there are some creepy moments here. I mean, like the corpse at the top of the stairs, of course. That's probably one of the most famous ones, of course, that with the devoured face and all of that. So how do you feel about, because this movie is not yet very gory or graphic, it's more tense and creepy in that way. How do you feel about that particular flavor of the film?
I love films like that, kind of like the original Psycho as well, where it's not that gory, it just grips you. I love the older films like that, just because you are so invested in it, So when you do see something that's terrifying, it actually gets you, and you're actually like, "Wow, that's really scared the life out of me."
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think I'm more of a gore hound myself. I'm always looking for the gore and stuff, which is like I'll get to that later. But yeah, I mean, but this movie is really creepy in certain ways. I mean, the zombie kid that like stabs her mother to death, like.
Mm-hmm.
But and by the way, zombies like using tools and stuff. I mean,
I feel I feel like that's such a Romero thing. Like, it's so iconic in every film that he's done. But the kid, that was also a brave choice.
Yeah,
it's a brave choice whenever you have like a zombie kid. But with the age of the film as well, very, very brave.
Yeah, right. No, I agree. I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing about the tools and stuff, zombies using tools, I mean, it's present in this film, and then it kind of fades away a bit in Dawn of the Dead, and then it comes back full force in, of course, Day of the Dead, which we'll talk about a lot later on. But yeah, the zombie kid is like, and you know what? I'll give the remake of Dawn of the Dead. I will give it that. I mean, a zombie baby.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
I mean, credit where it's due. I want to give credit where it's due. I mean, that was some freaky shit. It's a zombie kid, zombie baby. That's yeah. I will give it that. That's true. Yeah. So, how do you feel about this? I mean, I just love the inner conflict that the characters have with each other. I mean, it's not like they don't have like a friendship or a bond or whatever. I mean, they have more. It's more the necessity of surviving together, but their interests they clash a lot when it comes to their interests, and when it comes to their plan. And Ben has a very different mindset about how they should deal with this than Harry Cooper, of course, who, by the way, what a dick. Harry Cooper is like he's the dick of the movie. It's but so how do you feel about that whole element of it, the internal conflict with the characters?
Well, again, it goes back to the realism, because if you put yourself in that situation, you are going to find people that you're going to conflict with, especially if they've got different opinions and things like that. So it kind of brings it all back to putting yourself there in the situation.
Right, yeah. And I have to say, I mean, as much of a dick Harry Cooper is in the film, I mean, in the end, he was right. I mean, the cellar was the safest place. So, in that kind of way, he was kind of right. But that's the irony for you, I guess. But yeah, it's but yeah, no, I love the inner conflict, and that's going back to The Walking Dead again. That has always been one of my favorite points of the Walking Dead. Just always seeing the inner struggle with people and stuff. That's what makes it interesting. So yeah. But on top of that, I just really love how Romero shows the unfolding paranoia in this film that goes with the situation. Romero basically communicates information to the characters, but the audience as well, through radio and TV messages. But that's really all you get. That's really all you get. The rest of the film feels very claustrophobic in a way and isolated. But just watching the news bits and listening to the radio, and just the paranoia that sets within the group as well, I think really, really works. It feels very natural and realistic. So yeah, I mean, how do you feel about the whole paranoia element of it? Does it work for you?
Yeah, I would say so. Not having a lot of communication. Yeah.
Right, being cut off from society and stuff like that, right? Yeah. Um, and I mean, that's the usually these zombie apocalypse films, they don't really dive into like what the cause of it was and stuff, like how the whole outbreak came to be and stuff and all of that. They don't do that in The Walking Dead. They don't do it in A Quiet Place. I don't know if you know A Quiet Place, the films of A Quiet Place. Well, they're aliens, of course, in that franchise, but still, it doesn't really give you a lot of it. But Night of the Living Dead actually gives you like small hints of where it might come from. They are talking about a crashed meteor or like a satellite that carried radiation or whatever. They do give you little breadcrumbs there of what the origin might be, but Romero still allows you to fill in the gaps for yourself. It's like he allows you to make up your own version almost of that whole thing. I mean, do you appreciate that, or would you have rather had a more clear sort of backstory about where this was all coming from?
I like to make my own story. Definitely.
Right. Yeah, right. No, I agree. I prefer this angle actually, where you can sort of make it up for yourself. It's there's always like I always have this rule: show don't tell, and if you, I mean, sometimes you have to have an exposition dump. I mean, we really get into that with Day of the Dead, but sometimes you need the exposition, but I always feel like it's better to leave things hanging a bit. And the audience is smart, so they are able to make it up for themselves for the most part, anyway. So that's how I feel about it. Yeah. So yeah. So do you have like any more positives that you want to talk about with Night of the Living Dead?
I can't think of anything at the top of my head.
Okay, fair enough. I think I said plenty about about the positives here. It's yeah. So let's dive into some negatives or issues, because I have some issues with this film, which I want to address, but I don't know if you have any negatives or issues.
I love the makeup, but I also think it hasn't aged well. I think with the blue skin and things like that, it's not aged amazingly.
Right. No,
that would be my biggest gripe, I think.
Right. No, I mean that's a fair criticism. I mean, this movie is from 1968, and it's very small budget. It's very low budget. It's an independent film, so you can definitely tell there were certain limitations there in that regard. I think that's part of the reason why they don't have as much gore in this, and as much like sort of like zombie candy. Let's just say that. Maybe that's it, but I can see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean it's definitely. It's not as strong as the next two in the trilogy, for sure. So, yeah, okay. So let me go into some of the my issues here, because I have some anyway, and I want to hear your take on this. So, the first one we already talked about. I mean, they're just, and this is kind of like what you were saying as well. I mean, there isn't a lot of gore and practical effects in this film, and the practical effects that are in there, like you said, are maybe a little bit dated, but there isn't like for for a zombie film, there is very few like zombie mushing, so to speak. I mean, there isn't really like a lot of devouring bodies and stuff like that. Well, there is one really graphic scene, of course, when Tom and Judy are, die at the gas station, of course. But so we have that. But apart from that, there isn't really a lot of gore in there. So my second one is that this movie is in black and white, and I'm sure you feel the same way. I mean, I love black and white. I think that's fantastic. I mean, that's why I love Psycho for a huge part. It's black and white. So, but the whole thing about black and white, I just don't know if a lot of modern day audiences are willing to accept that. And I'm not sure if new people who are discovering this movie, I don't know if people will be able to let it go. I mean, that has been one of the main talking points with The Walking Dead, because originally they wanted the show to be in black and white, like Night of the Living Dead was, and but they decided against that because they knew people wouldn't accept that. And I wouldn't say this is a negative, it's more of a fear of mine. I mean, if people see this as black and white, they might not be so acceptable towards this movie. What's your take on that?
I can see what you're saying. I think a lot of the well, not so much my generation, but the generation after me, would look at the black and white films and be like, no, and maybe go towards the remake from the 90s, which is, I'll be honest, is what I did originally, but I'll always go back to the black and white. You got to see it all, haven't you?
Right. No. I mean, I have seen the remake in color as well, and Tony. I mean, let's be honest. Tony Todd is pretty great as I believe he played Ben, right? Tony Todd.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, he played Ben, and Tony Todd is fantastic. But with all due respect, he's no Duane Jones, and it's. I don't know. It's kind of like I feel like they made that remake for the younger audiences, maybe. But yeah, that's kind of like the black and white thing for me. I mean, a lot of people just might not accept it as easily as we do. And my last negative, and we can talk about this if you want, but the ending of this film is very downbeat. It's I mean, Ben is just straight up executed at the end of it. And I think you're either going to be on board for that or you're not. And I think the ending will divide viewers in that way, because I hear that a lot from like modern day horror movie goers, is that like they want all of their horror movies to have like a positive ending, and this movie is very pessimistic and very cynical. And I mean, George Romero never really admitted this, but my theory is still that the ending of Ben is really a metaphor for the Martin Luther King assassination. Still, I mean, Romero hasn't admitted that, but I feel like he might have intended that to be the message, basically, with that. So this movie is very. It has a very dark and gritty ending. And I just don't know if modern day horror audiences are willing to accept that. even more so than the black and white, because again, like I said, a lot of modern day audiences with horror want their happy-go-lucky ending. So how do you feel about the ending of this film, and how do you think it will be approached by newer audiences?
I think the ending is absolutely brutal, because you do want to see him, like, you've seen him the whole film, you've kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Fell in love with the character.
Yeah.
So you do want him to survive.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, he's just like shot, and it's like, oh, yeah, and it does kind of leave that sting. But I kind of like that as, I don't know, I guess I'm half and half. I kind of like it in the sense that, like, well, not everybody's going to survive, and they thought he was a zombie, so they didn't really have much of a choice. But on the other hand, I'm like, but he should have survived.
I know, right? It's like, Ben is, but I feel like if Ben survived, I mean, he would have made it to the end probably. In terms of the character, I mean, he would have survived for years probably. It's also that whole thing about, in the zombie apocalypse, no one is safe. And that has been, again, going back to The Walking Dead, that has been one of my biggest issues with The Walking Dead, especially in later seasons. I mean, everyone seems to have like plot armor the size of a force field, and everyone is untouchable, and no one can be harmed in any way, which is so unrealistic. It's like it takes the risk and the danger out of the show. And say what you want about the ending of Night of the Living Dead, but at least, I mean, Romero had the balls, man. I mean, he just I can't imagine when he thought of that scene. It's like, well, if I'm gonna do it, I better stick with it. So it's, but I agree with you. You're very mixed on it because you want to see Ben survive. But I do think it's done in a very realistic way, because, like you said, the Rangers and stuff, they do think that he is a zombie. So, and they take the shot, of course. I mean, like, that's a very natural reaction. Yeah, it's very sad. I just don't know how younger audiences, younger than you and me, will they be able to accept such a dark ending? I don't know. I'll go back and forth on that.
I agree.
Yeah. So it's yeah, but it is what it is, and if anything, this movie has balls for doing that. So yeah, but that's the end, and that's the ending of the film. And well, not quite. Then we see all of the bodies being piled up and just set ablaze. As if you didn't stab us in our heart enough. You have to burn all of them as well. So that's.
I'm just grabbing a drink.
Oh yeah, sure. Take your time. No rush.
It's all right.
No rush. I already packed my beer, so it's fine. I'm good, but it's no hurry. So, yeah, that was the ending. So, do you have anything else to say on Night of the Living Dead?
We wouldn't be talking about Night of the Living Dead without mentioning the one quote, and I'm sure you should know it, which is, "They're coming to get you, Barbara."
Oh, right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Coming to get you, Barbara.
I feel like that's such an iconic quote, and whenever I think of like that old film, I always think of that. I always think of that quote every time. I don't know why. It's just iconic.
No, it is, really. It is. They're coming to get you, Barbara. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the next, especially the next film, has even more quotable things in there. But yeah, I mean, I almost forgot about that. Good catch. Yeah, they're coming to get you, Barbara. That's like, I feel like that has been memed so many times as well. I mean,
well, it's also used in Shaun of the Dead, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
I think it was.
So it's still used today.
Yeah, which I mean that says enough about the quality of the film. So yeah. So if you don't have anything more on Night of the Living Dead, I think I'm pretty much done with it. We can go, because we do rate on this show. So we could go into ratings if you want. For this one.
Can do.
Okay. So basically, I always rate like from 1 to 10. So 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. Do you want to start? Should I? With this one?
You go ahead. I'm going to think.
Okay. Fair enough. So, yeah, Night of the Living Dead. I mean, this film is still a fan favorite of mine. I think this film is really, really great. Whether or not it's as great as the 2 other ones, we'll get to that. But for what it is, for a first main feature, I think it's really great, and it works actually on most levels. It works very well. There are, like you said, there are some dated things, and again, the issues that I have kind of stick out. But overall, I think this film is really great, and this is like one of my comfort movies. I can watch this movie every year, and it never gets boring. So, my rating for this one is I'm going to give Night of the Living Dead an 8.5 out of 10. That's my rating.
That's a very good rating, actually.
Yeah. All right.
I was going to say round about 7 for me.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, that's fair. That's fair. Let me write that down. 7. No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, look. In retrospect, this movie is not as strong as the next to it is. I mean, let's just call it what it is. So that's fair. I mean, a 7 is very fair, I feel like. So, yeah. All right. So, Night of the Living Dead. By the way, I have the Criterion collection here. That's how
nice.
That's how I watched it. Picture quality is great, by the way, on this. So it's so yeah, I have the Criterion Collection edition of this. Really, really good. And the sound is great as well, by the way. The sound is great. So yeah, I have that one. All right. So that was Night of the Living Dead. Moving on to Dawn of the Dead first, I should say. Dawn of the Dead is, of course, released a lot later in 1979. 1979 it was. And again, quick synopsis. During an escalating zombie epidemic, there we go, 2 Philadelphian SWAT team members, a traffic reporter, and his TV executive girlfriend seek refuge in a secluded shopping mall. Yeah, basically, that's basically what it is. So, yeah, Dawn of the Dead. I mean, a cult classic, I think we can all say. I think we can all agree with that. I think we all know how this movie began. I mean, Romero, who now actually had a producer in his company called Richard Rubinstein, he was thinking about a sequel to Night of the Living Dead, and somehow word traveled across overseas to Europe. And Romero soon got a call from none other than Dario Argento, who actually saw Night of the Living Dead and was a huge fan, and offered to co-write the script with Romero, which is very interesting. I think part of the deal they made was, if I'm gonna help you write the script, but in exchange, we want to make our own zombie genre films, basically. I think that was probably the deal that they made. And this movie was ultimately made for $650,000, I believe, which still is like nothing compared to movies today. So Yeah, very interesting stuff. So again, before we go into positives, negatives, all of that stuff, it's going to be hard to talk about this movie. But what are some of your general thoughts about Dawn of the Dead?
Where do you begin with a film like that? I mean, there's so much to say about Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead, like I said, was my first beginning, even though it was the remake, but even so, watching the original, it's just I will always have a place in my heart for the original Dawn of the Dead. Absolutely, it is very good. It is very, very good. I don't know what I can say about it because it's just there's so much you can say, and you'd be here all night. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, well, I'll guide you through some of the things, and then you can react if you want to. So yeah, I mean, the first thing that I have to say is that what we talked about already in Night of the Living Dead. This movie has some of the best practical effects and use of gore I have ever seen. Oh my God. I mean, Tom Savini just goes crazy here in this one. I mean, there are so many examples. The head slice of the zombie, when he comes to the helicopter blades. I mean, I don't know which version did you watch? I always watch the director's cut of it.
I think I always go for the director's cut as well.
Yeah, that's the longer version that has more stuff in it. Yeah. So the helicopter, it's the zombie getting his head slashed off. That's great. The zombie machete kill, of course, in the mall. Really great stuff. And then there is the great head explosion in the apartment with when the soldiers are storming the building and stuff. In my opinion, there are only two great head explosions in horror cinema. One is in David Cronenberg, Scanners, and the other one is in Dawn of the Dead. And this, it's just, and as well, it's so chaotic the way it happens as well. It's like the guys just just break in the door and immediately shoot someone's head off with a shotgun. It's it's so crazy. So I mean, how do you feel about now that we have full practical effects and gore in our zombie film? How do you feel about Tom Savini's work in Dawn of the Dead?
Tom Savini is incredible. His line of work is incredible. But bringing those special effects in Dawn of the Dead and the original was, you can tell the difference immediately.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And he did, I mean, he did so many movies, right? It's you can't even name them all. It's really great stuff. Also, the use of real locations, which is very important to me. Like I said, that's what I mean with CGI. Nowadays, everything is shot against a green screen, and it looks cartoony, it looks fake. And I want give me real locations with actual built sets, right? Stuff like that. I mean, and everything just feels so authentic in Dawn of the Dead. Whether it's the apartment building that I already mentioned, or of course the shopping mall, which is the big set piece of the film, of course. But everything just feels so natural and authentic. I mean, do you agree with that assessment?
Definitely.
Yeah. How do you feel about the use of CGI? I mean, do you feel like it's overused now today? Because that's my opinion anyway on the matter.
I would say so. Like you said, everything is shot at a green screen. It's not just shot in your neighbour's house like it used to be. I think it's definitely overused. what can you do? It's they're making a lot of films now for kids and for kids to watch, and kids are going to be entertained by, like I say, the cartoony aspect of the CGI.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a whole other discussion, which I don't think we have time for. But it's I mean, it's it's made for kids, and it's like it's but growing up with the movies that I love and that you love, I mean, it's just nothing beats practical effects and real locations for me. It's just like it's really, but it is what it is. So let's talk about the characters for a moment, because that's always one of my most important things with not just Romero's films, but also with The Walking Dead, is characters. And this movie has some great characters. How do you feel about the characters in Dawn of the Dead in comparison to Night of the Living Dead?
The main bad guy, and I've forgotten what his name was, in Dawn of the Dead, I hate him.
Oh, do you mean Francine's boyfriend, like the helicopter pilot?
No, I don't know what his name is, and I've literally just watched it like not long ago, a couple of days ago, and I don't.
You mean Rhodes?
Yes,
the army captain.
Yes, the army guy.
We'll get to that. That's in Day of the Dead. That comes after.
Oh,
this. So yeah, it's that comes after.
That's fair.
Don't worry. We'll talk about Rhodes. Don't worry. We'll talk about Rhodes. But it's no. I mean, the characters in Dawn of the Dead. How do you feel about the characters in Dawn of the Dead?
They're relatable. Again, I think with all of his films, you've got characters that you relate to and characters that you don't so much relate to. I like the final girl from this one, actually.
Yeah. Oh, Francine, the girl who's pregnant.
Yeah. I like them
with her boyfriend. Yeah. She's great. I think. Again, such a ballsy move for Romero to do, because, back then, again, it wasn't very, usual to have a strong female lead in movies, like, at all. So, I mean, the fact that you have Francine in this, played by Gaylen Ross, is just, it's really great. And she's a very capable, strong woman. She, her, of course, she reacts very angrily when when the guys are talking about her pregnancy and whether or not to abort it and stuff. She demands to have like a gun, and she learns how to shoot the gun on her own, which is really great, I think. And of course, she wants to learn to fly the helicopter as a plan B, in case of if something happens to Steven, her boyfriend, which it does actually, but we'll get to the boyfriend. But yeah, I think Francine is a very strong female character and female lead for sure. Yeah, for sure. But I really love Peter as well, played by Ken Foree, of course, our Nubian Black Prince. I should say colored prince, by the way. A Nubian colored prince. I mean, again, for a person of color, I mean, just especially for that time, a very smart, level-headed, and capable persona. I mean, it's it's just great. You was in Woolly's unit, wasn't you? But it's it's great. It's great. And I should say this, by the way. When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. That's the one right there.
So iconic.
Yeah. So he's great. And I also love, Roger, played by Scott Reiniger, the fellow SWAT member. He is just as capable as Peter is. but he's also a little reckless, and hot-headed, and of course, eventually that bites him in the ass because he gets cocky, and eventually he gets bit twice. I mean, once on the arm and once on the leg, I believe it was, which is, yeah, that sucks. And especially when he dies and he reanimates, like, in the bed and stuff. It's such a sad scene, and then Peter has to put him down. So really, how do you feel about the whole friendship between Peter and Roger in this film?
I'm trying to think what to say. I can't think of what to say.
Okay.
I've written things down, but it's
okay. Fair enough. It's I really like their camaraderie. They kind of run into each other by accident. And they bond very quickly. I think it's especially because they are both SWAT members, that they know how to handle themselves and stuff. And but yeah, it's and they are both planning of running, actually, right? Running away. I mean, I could run right tonight. My friend has this helicopter. Come on. But it's so yeah, I think he's great as well. But one of my favorite characters in this film, and he only has a very small role, but I love that character. The priest with one leg, like that's like on the crutch and stuff. He's awesome. Like, it's the don't shoot me, officers. I mean, the people of 107 will do as you wish now. It's I think he's great. I think he's a great character. When the dead walk, senores, we must stop the killing or lose the war. It's very, again, this movie is so quotable. It's awesome. So, I'll just continue, and if you want to add something, you can just go ahead. I think also the way that Romero extends on the paranoia in the universe of his trilogy, I think he does very well. I mean, at the start of the picture, it's very clear how chaotic the world has become, and just there is mass panic and insanity starts in people and stuff like that. The TV station in the intro being used as sort of like a last line of communication with society, I think is great. And I love how this is all great, because it's very reminiscent of what's happening in like news shows and stuff today. I mean, they have these two people sitting across from each other at the table, and they are just arguing about like the situation and stuff, and the one person doesn't believe it, and the other one already is spitting out facts and stuff, like you have to shoot them in the head and stuff like that. Everybody that is not exterminated gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill. So I think that is great. And then, the massacre and all the drama that comes with it in the apartment complex that I was already telling about. I mean, the cops are just going crazy and berserk. I mean, they don't even know if they're killing zombies or regular people. I mean, they're just going blitz, throughout this whole thing. And they don't. It's almost like they don't care, as long as like, oh, we just have to shoot on sight. Oh, let's just kill everyone. It's you can't help notice the social commentary that Romero is giving in this film.
yeah.
Especially when it comes to the Rangers, when they are when they're flying over the countryside, and you see all of these Rangers meeting up with the army, and they're drinking beer and they're having barbecues and playing country music while they are killing zombies and stuff. I mean, you can't you can't help but notice the social commentary there. Do you agree with that, or?
I actually wrote that down. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there you
Are
go.
they on our side when the world has ended?
Oh, yeah. Exactly. Yes. Everyone is just totally going berserk, and it's I think it's, again, it's just such ballsy work, because that wasn't really like accepted. It was very much frowned upon back then when you were making a movie. I mean, God forbid you say anything about the system or whatever. It's so I think it's very ballsy work that he managed to put that in his movies. Romero did. So yeah. Well, I mean, we can talk about this movie like all day long, I feel like. I mean, there is just so much. The soundtrack, we have to talk about the soundtrack, done by Goblin this time, of course. I mean, Goblin, who is more famous for making soundtracks in Europe and Italy and stuff. Of course, when Dario Argento and all of that. So let me ask you this as a sort of sidetrack, because I already sort of led into that. How do you look at the if you have seen any? I don't know if you've seen any, but how do you look at the Italian European zombie films?
I've not seen that many, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay, you haven't. Okay. It's okay. Do you have seen some, or?
There's one that I'm sure was an Italian one, and I have no idea what it was called now.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
I'd have to try and find out what it was called, and I can let you know another time. But I don't remember at the top of my head.
Okay, fair enough. Because I mean, as much as I love Romero's trilogy, his zombie trilogy, I mean, the thing that always kind of like bothers me with it is how clean the zombies look. I mean, they are. It gets much better in Day of the Dead, but especially in Dawn of the Dead. I mean, the zombies just look so clean, and they have this sort of like blue color to them.
Yeah.
Whereas in the, if you look at the European or Italian zombie films, I mean, those zombies are absolutely disgusting. I mean, they actually look like rotting corpses. I mean, they leak maggots, and they have dust and dirt on them and stuff like that. That's why I love the European Italian zombies so much. And I always felt like the zombies of Romero's trilogy were a bit too clean, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does, but
it makes sense.
Yeah, does it make sense to you? Yeah.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Definitely.
Yeah. Again, it gets much better in Day of the Dead, but yeah. So I think we could talk about this movie all day long. I mean, do you have like? It's probably blasphemous to ask you, but do you have like any issues with Dawn of the Dead or negatives? Because I do have one big one.
Okay, go on.
Okay, I'll lay it out for you, and then you can give me your take on that. Okay. If there is one thing that I hate in movies, but especially in horror movies, zombie apocalypse movies, I hate when characters make dumb decisions. So I don't like Steven. I hate Steven, the boyfriend of Francine. I mean, he has such a masculinity problem, and he's so naive and arrogant, and he can't shoot for shit, and he endangers his friends all the time. I mean, he almost kills Peter at the gas station when he's trying to gun down a zombie, and he can't even point and shoot. it's just he has such a self-centered demeanor about him, and he eventually wrecks everything, because if he didn't declare war on the bikers, I mean, the bikers would have just kept on moving. They would have just raided the place, and then they would have been gone. But no, Steven has to pull the trigger and shoot a freaking biker. It's so I can't stand that stuff. And it ruins their home. They had such a utopia. It's like, and again, it goes back to the social commentary of like, mass consumerism and stuff. But they had such an idealistic home, and Steven had to fuck it up. Yeah, I mean, that's like, I can't even, oh my God, so stupid. But I do have to say, I mean, he does get his comeuppance, because he dies and he becomes one of the most iconic zombies of the film. So, maybe a bit of karma there, or a bit of irony. I don't know. But what's your take on that? How do you feel about Steven in this film?
I do agree with you that characters that make dumb decisions, and you just want to like smack him on the head and just be like, "What are you doing?" So I agree with you.
Right. And and even when they are trying to clear the mall, he's just going off on his own, and then he trips over something, and again he attracts zombies and stuff. So annoying. Anyway, so I mean, I like the actor. I like the actor. He does pretty much what he needs to do. But in terms of the characters, like, I can't stand you, man. I can't stand you. It's so that's like my one negative with the film. Steven is just but I to be honest, I think he's written that way to make the other characters more, capable. I think that's probably what Romero's choice was. But yeah, no, I mean, Steven is don't care for Steven. But it's it is what it is. So okay, well, if you don't have any more, unless you want to say some issues or negatives, but if you don't have anything more for Dawn of the Dead, we can go into ratings again.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, you okay. So, do you want to think again, or do you want to go first?
I think with Dawn of the Dead, with the original Dawn of the Dead, I'd probably do it again, maybe around 7.5 to an 8.
7.5. Oh, okay.
I feel like I don't know what it is. I like I said, I do love it, and I've got a special place in my heart for the original Dawn of the Dead, but not so much in the same sense as Night of the Living Dead. So I'd probably rate it a little bit higher, Night of the Living Dead, but not a lot higher, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's fair. No, there's no judgment here. I mean, if that's your rating, that's your rating. So no judgment. But I think I'm gonna surprise you, because I have this very high. Dawn of the Dead. By the way, I have this one. This is my release. It's from Second Sight, actually. It's a box. There you go. So I watched it on that. But yeah, I mean, Dawn of the Dead is one of my must watches for every Halloween on every year. I mean, this movie is so freaking fantastic, man. I love this film for everything it does. This movie is close to being perfect for me, anyway. It just, I love what it represents. I mean, nobody had seen anything like this before. Even more so than Night of the Living Dead. This was just such a original and new thing that nobody had ever seen before. And I just, I mean, it's part of horror history. It's a very important part of horror history. And I mean, Romero really made a masterpiece with this one. For me, it's a 9 out of 10. I give it a 9. It's just this. I can watch this movie. I can watch this movie probably multiple times a year, and I never get bored with it. It's really great.
See, I am very much like that with the remake. For me, the remake is that's my go-to. Like, I love it, and I can watch it multiple times. I could recite you the script from start to finish. The remake. Right. So,
okay, fair enough. Well, I will get to the remake. We'll get to the remake later. So, yeah, 9 out of 10 for me. It's this film is really great. I really appreciate this one. So, all right, we have one left. We go to Day of the Dead, of course. Day of the Dead released in 1985, very late in the mid 80s, of course. So again, quick synopsis: as the world is overrun by zombies, a group of scientists and military personnel sheltering in an underground bunker in Florida must decide on how they should deal with the undead. Yeah, so Day of the Dead is a very interesting film because, after Dawn of the Dead, Romero got a offer from the studio. They basically gave him a 3-movie deal. Basically, they gave him a huge budget. And this is for 3 movies, and you can make whatever movie you want, with the exception that one movie is a sequel to Dawn of the Dead. And Romero made Night Riders, of course. He made that first, and then he made Creepshow. And then he basically cut the budget in half for Day of the Dead. And he had already written the script for Day of the Dead. And originally, Day of the Dead was going to be a lot bigger, actually, in terms of scope. I mean, there was going to be a chase with, powered airboats through the Everglades and stuff. A lot of that, sort of like almost making an action film. I think he did a lot of those things in Land of the Dead later on. Which is much more action oriented, but of course, the budget being cut in half, he couldn't do that. And you know what? I think the movie is the better for it, because I think I'm just going to say it right away. Day of the Dead is my favorite movie of this trilogy. It's my favorite one. I love Day of the Dead. I adore Day of the Dead, and I think it's. I think with what he was able to do with the money, it worked out very, very well. So, yeah. So again, let's just start diving into it. What are some of your general thoughts again on the closing chapter, Day of the Dead?
For me, it's depressing because everybody in the film is depressed.
Yep.
But that's not to say it's a bad film. It's just that it's like, by that point, obviously they've survived Dawn of the Dead, and now they're in Day of the Dead, and everyone's like, well, everyone's extinct. Basically, humanity is gone. And you get that from like every single character that you meet in that film. You just see that in the face. You just see that like. Kind of like what's the name of the painting called? The painting of the guy in the war, and it's just kind of like face of PTSD.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, this this movie is very nihilistic and cynical and pessimistic, and it's the most downbeat film of the three. But in a strange way, that's a big reason for why I love it so much. I love how chaotically hopeless this film feels like. I mean, they're very far into the zombie apocalypse, of course, to which, I mean, the point of no return has come and gone. I mean, there is like no, if there is any hope of coming back to society, it's pretty much gone. Basically, the remaining pockets of humans have to learn how to survive with the zombies, basically. But also the effect that it has taken on the people. I mean, people are sinking into paranoia and insanity. One of my favorite characters from the film, Miguel, the boyfriend of Sarah, has PTSD, very clearly PTSD, a very extreme form of it. There's friction within the group. I mean, you have people like Sarah and Dr. Logan who still believe that a cure can be found, and others like Bill and John just want to go find a tropical island and spend the rest of their days just drinking and stuff. I mean, this movie is very, the hope is gone. There is no more hope in this world. And I think a big reason of that, of the film, that's why I love it so much. Because, I mean, if I look at a movie like, what was the one I was watching a while back? Oh my God, I saw a zombie film and I don't even remember. Well, anyway, there are so many I can't even keep up. But there was a zombie movie, and that movie ended with a very happy-go-lucky sort of ending, like, oh, the world is saved, and look, and it's, I don't know, it's in a weird sense that just doesn't feel realistic to me. So I don't know. Yeah, that's one of the big things why I actually love this movie so much. I mean, but I can see why it turns people off. I can clearly see that. I mean, there's like, because again, there is no glimmer of light like there was in Dawn of the Dead, where you can still find safe places and just build a home or whatever. It's like, I mean, the first shot where Sarah and Miguel are like trying to reach people with like a microphone and stuff, and just all the people of the town who are now zombies are just swarming towards them and stuff. It's really, I mean, it's a dark film. It really is. But so I can see why people would be turned off by that. But for me personally, I actually really love that aspect of it. So yeah, but to go into that, I mean, let's just finally talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the zombies, because I mean, Romero does this very interesting thing, I think, with the zombies. I mean, in Night of the Living Dead, you can clearly see them using tools and stuff like rocks to smash windows, and of course, the kid killing, the mother and stuff. But then in Dawn of the Dead, that's sort of gone away a little bit. I mean, there are people who are using zombies who are using certain things, and they do talk about like why do they keep coming back to the mall and stuff. Excuse me. As if there is still some kind of flicker of memory left in the zombies, like if they remember who they used to be. And joked on that one. Hold on. I don't know what that was. But Day of the Dead, just yeah, Day of the Dead just goes like full blown in that direction with, you know, can the zombies, you know, be cured, and can they retain their memory and stuff? How do you feel about the development of the zombies in Day of the Dead?
I quite like it, actually. I like that aspect. Like I said earlier at the beginning, it is a very Romero thing to have that. Perhaps they've got memories, perhaps they've got ties to the place where they are, whatever. And obviously with this one, I'm sure we'll go into it properly, but you have very famous zombie in this film, which is Bub.
Bub, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Which they kind of experiment on and trying to teach him or trying to make him better or whatever. And I like that, because I don't think many other zombie films, even any zombie films, actually do that at all, really. So I quite like that. It's very unique to his films.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that's also one of my positives with this film, is like, I like how they develop that sort of the study of the zombies. One moment. I love the study of the zombies and stuff, and especially with Bob, of course. Bob, played by Sherman Howard, I believe. But you know, Romero raises a lot of like sort of like moral questions about that, because but I feel like Bob is very interesting, because on the one hand, I believe that he has some kind of memory, and that he does do certain things because he knows that from his past or whatever. But on the other hand, it makes me question that, because there is one scene in particular that makes me question that, and I want to get your take on this. So when of course Rhodes has executed Dr. Logan, of course, after, you know, finding out that, you know, Bob's reward is, you know, him getting fed the diseased bodies of his soldiers, and Rhodes executes Dr. Logan. But when Bob finds him, is, you know, he shows him the chain, like he's like, you know, I look at this. I got free on my own. Aren't you proud of me for this? And then he sees Logan's body, and then he sort of like, he gets into this like almost sort of like howling cry, where he's like, he seems really upset with the death of his friend, basically. And he grabs up the gun, and he starts going after Rhodes and stuff. But is that real? Because I mean, I'm questioning, is that real? Does he have real memories of Logan and how he treated him and stuff? Or is he just upset that, you know, basically Rhodes has cut off his basically his line to a food supply, basically, that, you know, there is no one to basically feed him snacks anymore. I don't know. I just go back and forth on that. What's your take on that?
I think it's down to the audience's perception of how they want to decide, I guess. Going back to making your own decisions.
Right. But do you have a particular side on which you fall, or?
I don't know. I think it's kind of like a mouse in a cage, isn't it? So it probably is that the food is gone, or he's been trained. That's the way that he's been trained.
Right.
But I guess it is kind of half and half. But I would more likely go for that, like mouse in a cage aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, you see, I would too. but then again, when Bob sort of like basically, executes Rhodes in that wonderful way, by the way, where he's, of course, later on, of course, torn in half. What a delicious scene that is. But then after he executes Rhodes, he salutes, which is something that Logan has taught him. So I don't know. I go back and forth, but I'm probably more on your side. It's like, now I have no one to feed me any delicious meats or whatever. I don't know. You go back and forth a bit. So, but now we're on the topic anyway. Now that we're on the topic, let's talk about our lovely bad guy here in Rhodes, played by the way masterfully by Joe Pilato. So I'll let you go first. You wanted to talk about Rhodes.
It's just, he is made perfectly where you just want to punch him in the face. Like, he's so hateable. And that's what's good about the actor, because that actor, whenever you find an actor like that, they do a fucking great job. I don't know if I can swear, sorry.
Yeah, you can.
But they do a great job. So you've got to really respect the actor, because you get a lot of backlash. And yeah, I hate that character. I hate that character. And when he does eventually get got, you're like, thank God for that. I wish it was sooner.
Exactly. Yeah, and then he he can't help himself, and he's going like choke on them and stuff, and it's like, dude, shut up, you're dead. It's like, but yeah, I mean, Rhodes is just what a nasty piece of, what an incredible monster. It's a monster. He really is. And again, I think Romero was trying to tell something to the audience here, like, because this was shot right at the sort of like right at the end of the Vietnam War, and of course the Vietnam War is very famous for American soldiers taking basically control in their own hands and stuff, without having to justify themselves to a government or whatever. And I think he was leaning into that, Romero was, with Rhodes. Rhodes is just such a... I think Rhodes was even... we don't see that, but I think Rhodes was actually hoping for, Major Cooper to his leader, basically, as his boss. I think he was actually hoping for Major Cooper to die, because, from his whole demeanor, you can really see that he has always desired to take up leadership and stuff and just boss everybody around. And it's like, it's like a crazy dog with rabies, man. It's really like, it's absolutely, my favorite scene with Rhodes is when, after he killed Logan, he executed Logan, and then they basically have a standoff, the heroes and the and what's his name again? John, I think, refuses to fly the helicopter, and he just coldly like executes. He shoots like the one doctor like through the head and stuff. That's the kind of person Rhodes is, and Joe Pilato is absolutely fantastic in it, and he got a lot of backlash for portraying this character, which I guess I can kind of understand, because a lot of the times in a bad guy or in a villain, you're looking for at least some sort of little slivers of redeeming qualities. There is nothing.
He has none. There is none.
There is nothing. There is nothing about Rhodes where it's like, oh yeah, I kind of get that. but I kind of get what you're doing there. No, I mean nothing with Rhodes, and it's so I kind of get the backlash, I guess, in a certain extent, but it's the role that you are playing, and you know, if you're gonna play a role like that, I mean, you better dive into it and really deliver, and he really does. He really does. Rhodes is fantastic. You know, he's probably my favorite character of the film.
I was just going to say exactly the same thing. I was just going to say the same thing.
But besides one character, there is one character, and this character is actually my favorite character of the entire trilogy. Laurie Cardille as Sarah. I mean, talk about a strong female lead. I mean, Sarah is fantastic. I mean, I love Sarah. I mean, just the way that she puts up with her, like, you know, PTSD suffering boyfriend, you know, like he slaps her around when he doesn't want to take like a sedative and stuff, and she still cares for him in a strange way. You know, very capable. I mean, she can shoot guns and stuff, and she's not scared to stand up against Rhodes. You know, I think she's the only person that actually is not scared of standing up against Rhodes. Because there are several moments where she calls his bullshit, which I think is really great. And my favorite scene is actually the one where she saves Miguel by cutting off his arm to stop the infection, and then they cauterize it and stuff. And she's basically standing in front of the between Rhodes' men and Miguel. And after Rhodes and his men leave, she breaks down and she cries in John's arms, which also shows that she can be very vulnerable if she has to be. So that's like my favorite character of this film, Sarah. I think Sarah and Rhodes, those are my two favorite characters of this film. So yeah. So what else can we talk about? I mean, let's talk. I mean, again, the gore and practical effects. I mean, these are some of the best practical effects and gore, you know, effects I have probably ever seen. I mean, you have like, of course, you have the zombie with that gets killed by the shuffle. You know, the head gets like cut in half, and like a bowling ball, it just gets like tossed away and stuff. And then the eyes are still moving. It's like, how did they do that? I have no idea. And of course, like I said, Sarah cutting off Miguel's arm. And then, of course, you have Dr. Logan Frankenstein, you know, his whole cabinet of curiosities with all of the zombie experiments and stuff like that, and the corpses and stuff. I mean, the one where the zombie's head is gone, but the brains are exposed and stuff. That looks so good. So yeah, I'm really keen on the practical effects there. And again, Rhodes torn in half, of course, is great as well. So yeah, what can I say? I mean, do you have anything to add about Day of the Dead in terms of anything?
The gore was fantastic in Day of the Dead.
Yeah, it is.
It's really good. And now that I've like rewatched it, because I've not rewatched them in a long time. That's the thing. I haven't rewatched them. And when I did go back to rewatch Day of the Dead, I was like, wow, actually, like, this is great.
Yeah.
You're watching it now in 2025, and it looks. I mean, obviously, it looks old, but it's aged quite well, I think.
Right. Because you were saying that, like, you know, with Night of the Living Dead, that's a bit dated. I don't think the gore effects and practical effects in Day of the Dead are dated.
No, I don't. I think they've aged very well.
Yeah,
It still looks good now.
Yeah,
as if it could be made now, like today.
Yeah,
It's very, very, very well done.
Yeah, it really is, and I think this is some of Tom Savini's best work. I think in terms of gore and practical effects. I mean, it holds up so well with the. I think, like you said, I think you could almost compare this to practical effects of today. It just looks so good. I don't think the effects are dated at all in this one.
No, I think they're very good. As like you look at the zombies, and you can kind of tell which ones are more fresh and which ones have been there. Which ones are a lot older, and then you've got the corpses when you initially come into the town, and it's just it's amazing. It's really good.
Yeah, I completely agree. So so the gore is top notch, absolutely top notch. It's some of my favorite gore stuff and practical effects in like any horror movie. So it's really great. So I mean, there are so many positives that we could talk about with this one, but do you? I'm almost afraid to ask, but do you have like any issues or negatives with this one, with Day of the Dead?
Honestly, with Day of the Dead, there's not much that I can pinpoint. To be honest, there really is not a lot that I can criticize. It is a very, very good film. And I think now that I have gone back and rewatched it, it will be one that I'm going to add continuously all the time, and continue to rewatch it. It is really good.
Yeah, it is. I actually watched this one. This is going to sound very blasphemous because most people say that Dawn of the Dead is their favorite one. I mean, favorite and best are different things. So a lot of people say that Dawn is their favorite one. For me, it's Day of the Dead. I mean, I watched this. I watched Day of the Dead probably the most out of the three. I watched this one the most out of the other two. If I had to choose between the three of them, I would probably put this on because it's just like I really don't know how George Romero did this, concerning he only had like half of the budget, but he really made it work, and this movie speaks to how good of a filmmaker George Romero is. I mean, if you have that kind of limitations and still make a movie like this, that says a lot. It really does. And I think it's really great. This is by the way, this is how I watched it. This is my release right here. So I mean, in terms of issues, I only have one, and this is going to sound very weird, but I mean, you can almost say that this is like a nitpick, but I'm going to say it anyway. As much as I adore this film and I think it's pretty much perfect and stuff, some of the actors that portray like Rhodes' soldiers, sometimes they are kind of overreacting a little bit with like how much they are yelling and stuff, like especially the big one, the bold one with the Steel. I believe his name was Steel. But some of them are a little bit melodramatic, the soldiers, the way that they are acting in this. I mean, I get it's part of the characters, so you kind of have to, but still, sometimes it feels a little bit over the top with how the soldiers are acting. And I'm not counting Rhodes, by the way. I'm not counting Rhodes because Rhodes is fantastic. But so, I mean, how do you see that? How do you see that? Do you agree or do you feel differently?
I think it's a fair assessment. I can see what you're saying.
You do? Okay. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's a little I mean, sometimes it feels a little bit like you're trying too much. It's like we get it. You're a bunch of crazy freaking people in that whole thing. You're a bunch of crazy. Well, I'm not going to say the word, but bunch of crazy assholes you are, and so we get it. But sometimes it feels a little bit like method acting. Maybe is that the right term? Maybe it kind of feels that way sometimes a little bit. But it's really like it's a nitpick. Like it's this small, so it's it's there. But I would be remiss if I didn't point it out. So if you don't have anything else, I mean, we can go again into ratings for this one.
Yeah, I think this is, after rewatching them, this is the highest. And I'd probably go with 9. Because it is a fantastic film, and I don't want to give anything a perfect rating. I don't give a lot of things a perfect rating, so I think 9 is pretty good. And yeah, it's definitely going to be something that I'm going to put on regularly again.
Right
now.
Right. But I mean, another YouTuber that I did a stream with actually told me a lesson that I'm going to take to heart, actually. And because I agree with you, like no movie is perfect. Every movie has like little things and stuff. But this YouTuber that I did a stream with said, like, yeah, I mean, it might not be perfect, but it could be. Oh, something falling down there?
Yeah, my charger fell out. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, but it of course no movie is perfect, but it can be perfect for you. So and because I agree, I don't hand out like 10s a lot, because that's just me. But I mean, I'm gonna take that advice to heart. That sounds fair. It might not be perfect, but it can be perfect for you. So but you already gave you give it a 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a very good one. I'm a little bit higher than you, actually, because this movie is like one of my all-time favorites when it comes to horror movies. This is definitely one of those movies that I can watch over and over again, multiple times a year, and and every time, that's another thing. Every time I watch it, I love it more for some strange reason, because every time I find like new little things that are like, I didn't notice that before. So there's that as well. So and apart from that, like little, it's almost a nitpick, really. It's not really that important, but I mean, this film is just fantastic. I really adore this film. For me, it's a 9.5 out of 10. 9.5. It's really. I love this film. I really love this film. It's really, and they haven't made as much zombie films like this. So it's definitely on an island, so to speak, with that. So it's very unique as well. So yeah, 9.5. That's my rating for Day of the Dead. Fantastic. So absolutely fantastic. So those were the movies that we were going to talk about. We went through that relatively quickly, I would say. Which is fine. I mean, it's fine. We got to the point. I feel like we got to the point. So I always do this with my other guests. So before I let you go, I have one question that I would like your answer on. Okay, if that's okay with you.
Go on, right on ahead. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Because now, this is the moment. We're going to talk about it. When I heard that they were going to make a remake of Dawn of the Dead, and you can react to that, but I just want to give you my take on it. Okay. When I heard that they were going to make a remake of Dawn of the Dead, I was like really worried. and skeptical and stuff. But I was like, you know what? Let's just, I'm gonna see it and then I'm gonna judge it. Watch it before you judge it. And when I walked out of the theater, I don't think, and this is just my opinion, okay? This is just my opinion. I don't think I have ever been as disappointed and frustrated and actually angry with a remake like I was with Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. I think I literally walked out of the theater like this. I was so angry. I couldn't believe it. I was so mad because what that film did to me, anyway, for me, this is just my personal opinion. What that movie did for me is that this broke everything that Romero had worked on in the original trilogy, and this just felt like a slap in the face to the legacy of Romero. That's how it felt like to me, anyway. But let me throw it over to you because you have a very different take on it. Tell me why. I want to know why. Why do you love Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead? Why do you love it so much?
I really love the characters. All the characters are great, and you've got some pretty big actors in it too. Ving Rhames, being one of them. I always forget his name, but he's in Modern Family. Plays Phil in Modern Family. And I don't know. For me, I think because it was one of the first zombie films that I watched as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why I'll always go back to it. It's just got that reminiscence for me. Mm-hmm. It's got some pretty good parts in it too, and some really silly parts that are just absolutely just ridiculous. But I think that's why I love it. It's just for me, it's a great film. It's a really great film. It's got an amazing soundtrack as well, with obviously the most famous song in that being "Disturbed," "Down with the Sickness."
Right. Yeah.
It's got some Johnny Cash thrown in there, which I love. It is a good film for me.
That I have to say, I want to give it credit where it's due. I mean, the intro with the Johnny Cash song is I think is fantastic. I think the intro song with where you see all of the clips and stuff, and almost like a documentary. I think that is really great. Like I said, the zombie baby. If you do a zombie baby, that's I just felt like, let me give you an example of like why I felt this way. Okay, so when they are standing on the roof, right? And they are basically shooting the zombies, right? With where the other guys across the street, and you have like and they're shooting the zombies, and they're actually doing like comparisons to it, and they are at some point, I believe that they say like Bob Dylan or whatever, something like that. It's like, oh, there's Bob Dylan, shoot him, and it's like it's stuff like that is like Romero had humor in his films, but they didn't transfer over into comedy. And
I really love that part of the film. I don't know. I think that's like the silliness. I love the silliness. And also, I want to get this trending hashtag justice for Andy, because Andy deserved better in that film.
Well, that's true, actually. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I don't know, and maybe I don't know. It was also in a time because I can't remember. Is it from 2004? I believe
it's about that. I think so. Yeah.
2005 maybe. That was also in a time where the horror genre kind of like was a little bit diminished for me, because we had so much great stuff in the 70s, but especially in the 80s, and this just felt like And of course, but on the other hand, we had a lot of really great stuff from France. We had stuff like Martyrs and stuff, and and Hostel was there. So there were really great horror films. I don't know. Maybe I just was too hyped on it, or I just expected more. I don't know, but I just but that's my problem with remakes in general. I tend to be I'm always the guy who said I hate remakes. Like every remake that has been made, with the exception of 3, there are 3 exceptions. But overall, so a lot of the times I just feel like remakes are such an insult to the original filmmaker. Because you will, here's the thing: you will never live up to the quality that the original filmmaker did. That's at least my take on it. So,
I mean, that's fair. Dawn of the Dead. I just think the remake is great, and I just love it. I really love it. There's a lot that I love about the remake. I've just got it's just one of my favorites of all time.
Mm-hmm. No, I can see that. By the way, I'm not saying that you are wrong. I mean, it's all subjective, and you love what you love. So if you love it, that's great. I'm jealous because I wished I loved it too. But it is what it is. But I'm not saying in any way that you are wrong. I mean, if you love it, that's great. That's fantastic. So yeah, it just for me, it just didn't work for me. That's just the way it is, I guess. So, but anyway, that I wanted to ask you that question because we have been dancing around that whole thing for the entire stream, but we were going to get to it. So yeah. Two very different opinions on it. If you have to, let me say this: if you have to give it a rating, what would you give? Because you gave Day of the Dead a 9. What would you give? What would you give the remake of Dawn of the Dead then with Zack Snyder?
Okay,
just out of curiosity,
on my IMDb rating, I did rate it as a 10.
Okay.
But there are parts like where I could rate it lower, maybe a 9.5. But it's for me, it's so good, and for me, I feel like it brought out like a lot of things. Like Left 4 Dead has this reminiscence of the remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
That I love. In fact, for the longest of times, the character that Phil plays from Modern Family, I called him Nick, because of Left 4 Dead 2.
Mm-hmm.
And every time, I even forget his name now, the character's name in Dawn of the Dead, because I've just renamed him Nick because of Left 4 Dead.
Fair enough.
So for me, it's just got that. I think it came out at the right time for me because I was in high school and whatnot. So, yeah, it's a great film.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's also the thing, it's like, you float to the films that you are watching in the time of which you grow up, you sort of levitate towards that. I completely understand. And for me it was more of the 70s and 80s, because I grew up in the 90s, so that that's totally fine. That's totally fair. I just but when you look at, like, let's leave the remake a little bit out of there for a little bit. If you look at these 3 movies from George Romero, because this was about celebrating George Romero, I think when you look at these 3 films, I think they are definitely a very important part of film history, horror history in general. I think George Romero made a lot of risky and ballsy choices, and he really made 3 films that really are a very important part of the horror catalog. And if anything, that's something that people can never take away from him. So, it's so in that regard, it worked out extremely well, I think. So, do you agree with that? With the importance of these films that we talked about?
Absolutely. I think George Romero was a fantastic filmmaker. I wish he was still around to still make films. Obviously, I think he was absolutely fantastic, and there isn't many people that you can compare to George Romero. He's kind of up there with the big names,
Oh, he is. He really is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you can't compare. Like, I mean, I think I mean, The Walking Dead does a good enough job at trying to respect George Romero's work, but I don't think that they have ever reached the level of the quality of what George Romero's films are. And as much as I did love The Walking Dead, it just it never reached the quality of these 3 films that we have talked about. So,
I agree.
Yeah, so very important films indeed. Very, very great films actually as well. So yeah, I think we pretty much said everything we wanted to say here. Do you have anything more to add on this whole topic, on this whole stream?
Not right now.
Okay.
Maybe next time.
Okay, fair enough. Well, if that's what I was leading up to. So because it's these podcasts and streams are really a lot of fun. And usually I just pick one director. And usually we only talk about 2 films from that director. But being how important this is, I thought we'd cover all 3 of them. But my question is always like, if you are willing to do another stream or podcast in the future, I mean, we can talk about it for sure. So if you're open to that anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, we can definitely do something like this again, because I've had fun.
Good. And don't be. But by the way, don't be. How do I say this? You don't have to be. The fact that you're not the fact that you're not saying as much on every single film is that's okay. That's totally fine. You don't have to. I don't expect like a tsunami of words like every with every movie that we talk about. So it's totally fine. We're it's all good. So yeah, with that down, I think it's time we close off the stream. This has been a lot of fun for me as well. This has been great. I love these films, and I'm glad we did. I'm glad we covered this in this episode. So anyway, with that down, it's time to close this off. I want to thank everybody for watching again. For the people who are going to watch this later on, thank you all for watching. I will be back with more videos as soon as possible, of course. I just have to figure out the schedule and stuff. Stay safe and healthy as always. Have a good weekend. That goes for you too, Sammy. Have a good weekend. Have a good week later on. And yeah, stay tuned for more content. And I will see you guys and talk to you guys later. So, bye, everyone. And Sammy, bye. This was fun.
Bye.
See ya. Bye. We'll keep in touch. And bye, everyone. Ciao.
Bye.